A very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord, and in our headlines, the Prime Minister encouraging young people to be aware of their political history. Criminals put on notice the government is going after their ill-gotten gains. New legislation coming to protect people's information in this digital age. And in sports, the Windies Pacers bump out the Pakistanis to win their opening World Cup match in true West Indian flair.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
In our top story, young people in the Caribbean are being told to pay attention to the region's political history. This from Barbados Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley, and she was speaking at the launch of former Jamaican Prime Minister P.J. Patterson's memoirs, My Political Journey. Prime Minister Motley says that young people can gain valuable insight from him, just as she did.
There is no more consummate political practitioner in the post-independence Caribbean than Percival Noel James Patterson. His exploits, his tactics, his strategy are legendary. And for all who have been a student of politics, you would do well to recognize that this book is worth reading, but more importantly, the ability to exchange with a Caribbean giant is an opportunity you should not pass by.
And the book launch took place at the School of Business and Management at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus. During his speech, Mr. Patterson strongly suggested the region pursue a common foreign policy.
It wasn't put in the Chaguaramas Treaty by accident. It was because we recognize this as vital for us as small states of limited means and might. It is the only way to preserve our sovereignty and collective strength through the fundamental principles of international law and to preserve our territorial integrity. Fragmentation is suicidal.
Barbados will soon introduce laws dealing with the recovery of the proceeds of crime. This is among strategies outlined by Minister of International Business and Industry Ronald Toppin to shore up the international business and financial sector, which he says is poised to grow. Mr. Toppin says it is therefore imperative that the island has a local cadre of skilled compliance professionals who can defend the sector from those who seek to abuse it for nefarious deeds.
Thus, reforms of the law relating to the recovery of proceeds and instrumentalities of crime, and in particular, provision for such recovery through both criminal and civil proceedings, are both critical and mandated by this government.
And Minister Toppin was delivering the keynote address during a symposium hosted by the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists, Barbados chapter. He also touched on the recent blacklisting of Barbados by the European Union, despite having met the international taxation standards set by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development.
On May 17th this year, a couple of weeks ago, the European Union Ministers of Finance, however, removed Barbados from the blacklist. Such incidents underscore the importance of ensuring that officials and technocrats are well equipped to handle the rapid changes that affect our financial landscape. After working assiduously at legislative and procedural reforms, we received an excellent report card in one context, and yet found ourselves wanting in another area as far as another assessment body was concerned.
The Transport Board said goodbye to about 50 workers today. This as the state-owned entity continued its restructuring process under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation, or BERT program. Manager of Marketing and Corporate Communications Linda Holder confirmed that those leaving had all opted for voluntary separation packages.
We would have done this previously, and this is just another step in the restructuring that is presently going on at the Transport Board. They're going to be going out staggered today because everyone is going to be completing their shift and saying goodbye to the friends they would have made as they were working with us. We do have a number of persons, primarily drivers, who will be moving on, and then we do have some from the other departments.
And Ms. Holder was unable to confirm if more staff would be leaving in the near future. She, however, thanked the departing workers for their contributions over the years.
We are saying goodbye to some persons who have been with us for an extended period, and they're moving on to different things. And I want to wish them every success. They have helped to build Transport Board to what it is now, and we will continue to stand on their shoulders as we move ahead.
The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Response Agency has been building its capacity to provide relief for any of its members impacted this hurricane season. Executive Director Ronald Jackson says CDEMA, which is based here in Barbados, is targeting improving deployment of relief supplies. Now, the hurricane season officially starts tomorrow, and there are predictions of an average or below average hurricane season of 9 to 15 named storms. However, Mr. Jackson says that upgrades continue to be made in light of the 2017 experiences where Hurricanes Irma and Maria wreaked havoc in the region.
And we're doing this using CDEMA-related financial resources, though limited, and that has curtailed the speed at which we would want to go on the CDEMA side. But we're working with partners through various MOUs with the World Food Program. They've provided us with 4 sub-regional kits to help with our warehouse deployment. So when we have to deploy into an affected community or country, we will have the means of setting up additional warehouse space to take stocks in.
As Barbados moves to expand its digital operations, government intends to ensure that people's information is protected. It's doing so through the Data Protection Bill 2019, and the bill was debated today in the Upper House. Our Lisa Broom has been following it all day. And Lisa, tell us about this bill and why it's seen as important.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, the bill was introduced by Senator Kay McConney. She is the Minister of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology. Now, she says it will protect the personal information which the government, businesses and other organizations collect from and about people. She also says the bill addresses how that data is collected, how it's used, stored and shared. In addition, companies that collect data must be registered to do so, and people who feel their rights are infringed will have access to a data commissioner, a tribunal, and ultimately the courts.
You have the right to know who has your data, who is the data privacy officer, who is looking out for your rights, the purpose for which your data will be processed, and the categories of personal data so that will be used. So, for example, I might only need your first name, last name, and your date of birth. And those are the categories of information that I may very well need. And I might not need all the others. We also have the right to know the intended recipients of your data.
Now, although she supports the bill, Independent Senator Althea Wiggins is worried about data leaks. She's questioning what assurances government can give citizens their data will be protected. And this is especially critical, she says, with banking information and medical records.
I would tell somebody if you're diabetic or if you have high blood pressure or low blood pressure, but there are other personal data that blood gives you. Do you want John Public to know that? Indeed not. You don't want it. So people need that level of security and confidence. And I would like to know what kind of educational program that the government would be rolling out in terms of helping the people of Barbados feel better to be able to give their data.
Well, we also heard from the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Senator Ramel Springer, who also supports the bill. He says although much of people's personal information is already on the internet, it's government's duty to provide the protection afforded in the bill.
The most we can do is enact laws as a government to ensure that the information that is already stored is protected. And the information that will be captured going forward is protected. And that the individual, the average man in the street who is not even aware that he's giving up his information to someone who can use it for malicious purposes is protected and made aware.
Now, while acknowledging the proposed legislation is needed, the independent Senator Kevin Boyce believes, given its restrictions and potential penalties, stakeholders should be given enough time to get their houses in order. Now, he also points out that the requirements relating to the protection of children's data have been difficult to apply in other jurisdictions.
We need to be aware that while the goals are lofty and the aim certainly should be commended, when we start to get into the legislation, especially with the penalties that could arise, we need to be making sure that we tread appropriately in these circumstances, sir. So education will certainly be key as to how this act is going to be implemented. And I believe I've heard from the government that there is going to be discussion on that before the end of the day.
So essentially, at the end of debate on this piece of legislation, Senator McConney revealed that it has been referred to a joint select committee of Parliament for further consideration. She says the committee will comprise 6 senators and 5 MPs from the lower house. And finally, Lisa, the Senate also passed 3 land resolutions. One of them was for close to 6,000 square meters of land at Government Hill. That land is to be leased to the Maria Holder Charitable Trust to build a nursery school. The second resolution related to land at Upton, which will be used to construct a skate park. And the third piece is at Bay Street, which is earmarked for tourism development. So that is what we heard in the Senate today. They adjourned sine die, which means that they adjourned without giving a date as to when they will reconvene. But of course, we will keep you updated as to when that will happen. Lisa?
Regional stories now. In kitchen staff at the Princess Margaret Hospital in the Bahamas walked off the job yesterday, protesting hazardous working conditions and unfair treatment by management. We get more in this Eyewitness News report.
A faulty exhaust system in the kitchen at Princess Margaret Hospital is what prompted kitchen staff today to launch another complaint to their management team for the matter to be addressed. Now, according to the kitchen porter, Antonio Evans, he says a feisty response from the kitchen manager is what really sent tempers over the edge today.
Well, it was a remark made by one senior boss when one of the staff asked her, this kitchen is very hot. And her response in return, your house is hotter than this. So one of the staff members really take that to heart. So she said, if y'all ain't gonna walk, I can walk.
And that's when more than half of the kitchen staff walked off the job. Head cook Virginia Roll, who has worked in the kitchen for 13 years, says the unbearable heat and poor treatment by kitchen management has become the norm.
Even this morning, I said to the boss, if it would be all right for us to wear t-shirts, because you can see this jacket that I'm wearing is very hot. And all she said, I'm weak right now. So to say, well, okay, if I'm weak, then you could work like that.
I mean, I came here 34 years, and when I came to work in the kitchen, I met the people sitting out on the lawn because of the heat.
Evans pointed out that understaffing is another issue.
We deal with patients, we deal with guests and the employees. So that's a lot on our plate, dealing with the heat. So it's really inhumane working in that condition.
St. Lucia's Water and Sewage Authority, or WASCO, is carrying out investigations into the illegal dumping of a toxic substance into its wastewater treatment pond in Boseju, Gros-Islet. The disposal of the substance has led to the death of hundreds of fish and marine life downstream from the pond, which is located near to the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. HTS St. Lucia has more.
The indiscriminate dumping of oil near a water resource plant in the island's north has become the latest issue of concern for residents as well as the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO. On Monday, May 27th, reports of illegal dumping of oil sludge at the Water and Sewage Company's treatment plant in Boseju were made to the National Oil Spill Committee of NEMO, who in turn held an emergency meeting. According to reports, an investigation was launched on Monday by the Environmental Health Division.
On Monday evening, we received a report that there was some illegal dumping of oil sludge at the Boseju WASCO treatment plant. Having contacted WASCO, we found out that it was indeed so, And we have been working with WASCO to try as much as possible to rectify the situation. WASCO has promised that they will engage a contractor to do the cleanup of the area, pre-spill condition.
In Trinidad and Tobago, the registration process for Venezuelan migrants officially got underway this morning. Those in the country, both legally and illegally, have until the 14th of June to undergo the process to receive a registration card, which will allow them to work in TNT legitimately. Acting Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines has urged them to take advantage of that 2-week amnesty. More in this TT Online report.
The registration process opened at venues in Port of Spain, San Fernando and Scarborough this morning, with many Venezuelans seizing the opportunity to register. The gates at the Queen's Park Oval in Port of Spain were opened at 7 a.m, with many Venezuelans lined up as early as 4 a.m. Minister Hines was pleased by what he saw and said the process was good.
We have given this opportunity and we have made it clear in Spanish on diverse occasions, in English on diverse occasions. Even in my communication this morning, I say we give this window of opportunity, and that's why we have invited all the Venezuelans here to come and make use of this process. If they do not, then they run the risk of being outside of the sunshine.
I'm sure many of you are wondering, just like me, what goes into producing many of these tracks for Cropover. Well, here to tell us about it is one of the popular producers, a guy called Don Reiter. And we say he's popular because many who are not familiar with his name may have heard and seen some of his work.
Yo, boy say he got a firearm, yo, but I know he's a liar.
The 27-year-old has moved on from the Bajan dub now and has found a full-time career operating from his home in Bank Hall, St. Michael.
I like working in the small studio environment because it allows artists to get the personal feeling. Some artists feel in bigger studios as if they're not getting to build enough chemistry with producers to help, put the vibe into the music. Because music is instruments and technical stuff, but there also needs to be a level of vibe and feel, just like if you got a relationship with a friend.
He's hoping this special bond between artist and producer will help create hits, like this song featuring Mike Crow and Jar Redis.
Working with Don Reiter, as I say, he's a very pushy person and he's determined. And he always give you a good advice and tell you keep going and keep going. One day you're gonna get there. And I feel this year is my year.
Meanwhile, Don Reiter told us he's aware of criticisms about modern day music being produced bedroom style.
Everything has its place and time. And music is something that evolves, and I think some people forget that. But as music evolves, the way it's going to be created will evolve, and that's the reason we get different vibes. So the vibes from the music now will be different from the vibes from the music back then.
Now Saturday night, King Bubba is set to officially launch his anthem for 2019 called Love in the House.
A lot is happening in the society right now, the community, a lot of violence and stuff going on, and I firmly believe that love is the only thing that could change things, So I just encouraging everybody to show some love in the house this Cropover.
The entertainer is encouraging young artists and producers to continue to put in the hard work to help soca music to grow.
Marshall Montano does it around Trinidad Carnival, where he brings thousands and thousands into a venue. But I believe that the music is growing, and eventually we can get to that level where we can have sold out concerts of that magnitude, maybe in Barbados or even in England, because the people on the international scene are really interested in the culture, not only the music, but the actual experience. I always say that we have a lot more to offer here than just the music, but what comes with it as a package, the soundtracks, the festivities, it's just so much we have to offer, and I think people are loving the music and also embracing the culture for sure and want to experience that.
All the girls in the gym right now. Keep riding. Keep riding.